Hello, I'm Megan. We are at my latest renovation, the strip and flip, and I'm gonna walk you through the cost breakdown of the $96,000 renovation that I did on this property. If you have not watched my previous videos, make sure you go back so you can see how this house started, what it looked like when I got it, and you know all the background of the project. But just for a little bit of a review, this property is a single family home in the St. Louis, Missouri area. It started as a 3-bed, 1-bath property. I added to the basement an egress window and a completely new bathroom with laundry room area to make it a 4-2, and of course updated everything throughout. So let's go and see how I spent $96,000 in 4 months. All right, let's go through this cost breakdown across a few categories. First of all, clean and prep. This is one of those things that I realized pretty quickly into the project. I didn't even think about all the line items involved in cleaning and prepping a home that needs a full renovation. So clean and prep in total was a little over $7,000 of my budget. Permits were over $500. Junk removal was a little over $1,000. And then dumpster and dumpster fees, that was $1,300 just for hauling all of that stuff off over time and all of the dumpster runs that the contractors had to make. Demo was $4,080. So we took out a ton of paneling in the basement. We opened up a wall in the kitchen. There was a lot of demo that had to happen for this project. So over $4,000 in demolition costs, and then other miscellaneous costs added up to about $370. In the exterior category, I spent a little over $10,000 on the exterior of this building as we did the renovation. New doors on the front and side of the building were a little over $1,800. New windows all around the building on the main floor and a couple in the basement as well were $4,140. There were some crack injections to be done in the basement. It was from old settling, nothing's moving anymore, but that was $2,700. And then after those crack injections were done, I had a guy come and do some tuck pointing for another $700. And finally, we did, as you can see, some light landscaping, nothing too fancy, but that was another roughly $700 just to pull out the old stuff from these beds, add a few hostas, make it really clean and simple. A new owner can come in and do a lot more with this if and when they want to. Welcome. All right, the next category of this flip budget is mechanicals. And this was a big part of the budget because when you're doing completely new and updated bathrooms, kitchen, we're adding another bathroom in the basement, there's a lot to do with plumbing and electric in the background for that. So in total, my electrical budget was $7,500. I spent a little over $7,700 on plumbing costs. And then I did replace the AC, and that was another $4,900, bringing my mechanicals total to a little over $20,000 for this project. The next chunk of my budget was on the floor plan. So we did a couple things with this house to open it up a little bit. The main one being opening up this wall. There used to be a wall to right about here. So it was a really small inlet into the kitchen. There wasn't very good sight lines. The kitchen felt a little smaller because of that. So we had to spend some money to open this up. And actually the biggest part of that cost was the structural engineer. It cost $1,500 to have him come in, check everything out and do the drawings for us, and then only $400 to actually put the beam up. So definitely make sure that you are thinking about the cost of an engineer if you're gonna open up walls. Besides that, we had a lot of just tearing down old paneling and things in the basement. We framed out the new bathroom / laundry room that we added down there, and there was a bunch of drywall work to be done, of course, after all of that. So total framing and drywall budget for the entire house was a little over $5,000. And then the materials involved for all of that, for the beam, the framing, the drywall, everything, was another $2,800. So my total floor plan updates budget was almost $9,800 in this property. I am sitting in a $16,000 kitchen. So the breakdown for putting this brand new kitchen together is as follows. These soft close cabinets in this beautiful green were a little over $5,000 total. And then installation of the cabinets was $1,400 on top of that. So a lot of my budget went to these cabinets, and then the next biggest chunk was for these quartz countertops. In total, those cost $2,700. Pretty similar for the appliances, they were about $2,800 total. We had to rip up a whole lot of tile in this area and then put all these new tile floors down and do the tiling surround the backsplash. So we had tile work of about $3,700 and backsplash cost was $765. So in total, about $16,600 on this kitchen right here. Seems like a lot, but I do think the kitchen is kind of the heart of the home, and I'm really hoping that this pop of color and these updated touches will get someone really excited about this property. Bathrooms. All right, we started with one bathroom, we now have two, and I spent about $6,000 on kind of the finishes. Of course, there was framing and stuff that we covered in other categories, but it was about $6,200 across these two bathrooms. First of all, these vanities, which I bought from Wayfair, were about $700 for two of them. They did come flat packed. So my team, my contractors had to actually assemble them and install them. So that cost another $460. Tile work in this bathroom cost a little over $2,000. Toilets for the two bathrooms were $220. All the various mirrors and hardware that you see in here altogether cost $340. And downstairs, I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the things we added to the basement bathroom. Basement shower door was $800. But my favorite part of this bathroom is the laundry room area that we set up across the way here. I spent an extra $1,600 for the storage, the butcher block countertop, and the hanging space above because I'm obsessed with organization, and I think whoever buys this home will be too. Everything else was a little over $23,000. So this is painting, which was just shy of $7,000. Interior doors throughout. I actually chose these 5-panel doors instead of the standard 6-panel because I think they just look a little nicer, a little more upscale, maybe slightly more historic than the traditional 6-panel. So all of the interior doors, buying them plus installing them was a little over $2,700. Baseboards, $1,100. Lighting throughout was $488. All the new wall and floor vents, because you don't renovate a house and leave the old floor vents. Friends don't let friends leave old floor vents in place. Those were $625. The hardwood refinishing upstairs was $1,900, and then here in the basement, we put in a luxury vinyl plank. That cost $2,100. And finally, a big chunk of this project was adding this egress window that's right behind me to make this a legal 4th bedroom in the basement. That was $7,475. So all that together brings us to the total of $23,000 and change in everything else. But wait, there's more. These are the kinds of things that I definitely forgot to think about up front, but you always need to include them in your rehab budget, the listing prep. So once the renovation is done, there's a little more work to have it looking like this. It was about $320 to get a deep clean of this place. Staging, all this beautiful staging you see, which is done by a good friend of mine, was $2,500. And professional photos were $160, bringing my listing prep total to $2,980. Okay, so let's recap this entire budget. My total renovation budget for this property was $96,451. I spent that amount in 4 months. I have a ton of credit card points, it's amazing. Cleaning and prep was $7,332. Exterior work, $10,089. Mechanicals, $20,108. Floor plan, $9,793. The kitchen, $16,614. The bathrooms, $6,204. Everything else, $23,330. And the listing prep, $2,980. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned because this house is not yet sold. It's just getting on the market. When I have finally sold it, I will come back and we'll review this as well as the holding costs and the financing costs of the project. I'll tell you what I made on the property and we'll go through everything from start to finish, a full review of the strip and flip. See you next time. Keep having fun.